10 minutes. T-minus 9 minutes. T-minus 8 minutes. T-minus 7 minutes. T-minus 6 minutes. T-minus 5 minutes. T-minus for minutes. T-minus 3 minutes. T-minus 2 minutes. T-minus 1 minute. Stand by.
How about that?
Hello, RP Show fans. Welcome to this special day of the week, Wednesday, episode number 1727 of your favorite daytime sports talk show. I'll tell you right now, we know. We're not on Game Plus television today. We are preempted due to some live sports broadcast that they got going on over on our Canadian television partner, but that's okay. You found us here on YouTube and WQVZ Radio, and we'll be on the air in Nevada in hour 2, and that's when Steve Simmons will be joining us. Very bell-ringing worthy guest coming up in hour 2. Steve, partner of the RP Show and the BC Lions. We got a couple of big stories here, okay, in this opening segment, which goes very fast. When I say it's special on Wednesdays, it's because it's just you and me here in the opening segment, in the opening hour, as a matter of fact. 902-518-3033 is the way to reach me on the Western Dodge text line. 2 big stories, okay? I know a lot of you have written in here on the news that was dropped yesterday afternoon, right when we were going off the air, about the CFL changes to their schedule for next season, the changes to their playoff. We're going to spend a lot of time on that today, especially in the Canadian hour of the program today. So that is the big story. I know that's why a lot of you were here, but because this segment, the opening segment of the warm-up, is so fast, All League 2026 Canadian College Draft. Why? And Carlos, I saw from Indianapolis, has written in and said exactly that. He's like, just like that, the Thunder taken away from those players. Number one, that's the big problem that I have. Game, Wild went up 3-2, and the Stars and their I can go to bed now. And the Oilers win at 4-1. Staving off elimination, and they're going back to the duck pond now with Anaheim leading 3-2. So that was the cap of the Tuesday night games. I had a friend texting me about picks during the CFL draft, and I was like, you know what? I'm not even following the CFL draft tonight. I'm not. For whatever reasons. I don't know why that was. Then I see we're batting. We're good on YouTube here. Hey, it's all good. It's all good. You tell me, producer Corey. We're good? What's up? I got you. Is there anything I need to know as we roll here? You'll tell me in the break? Okay, cool. It's all good. So it's good now, and it's fine. I feel like Bob Cole sitting here. Everything is happening. Brent in Saskatoon writes in and says, Cash Cab is on Game Plus right now. They go back to Boston with the Sabres leading 3-2. That was the wrap from Tuesday night's games. If I was an Oilers fan, I'd probably be quite upset because it's like, why can't you play like that all the time? But for whatever reason, they don't. That's an Oiler thing. So day of the draft. I'm sorry, did anybody talk to the commissioner about that? The only quote that I've seen that came from Stuart Johnston was that he believes fans will get past this eventually. They're going from 6 to 8 teams. At least they've admitted that it's a money grab, but don't talk about the integrity of the game to me when it comes to the Canadian Football League. And sometimes I wonder who's making these decisions and why, but we've got a lot to get to when we come back. It's the RP Show.
Ultimate Fan Zone, taking our show on the road coast to coast. Shop online, ultimatefanzone.ca. Slick, user-friendly. We built this site for the die-hard sports fans. Jerseys, hats, team apparel, offering officially licensed fan gear from the best lines in sports. Nike, New Era, Adidas, Fanatics. Game day ready to your door. Now, just a click away. ultimatefanzone.ca or check us out on Facebook and Instagram. UFZ Downtown Moose Jaw, home of everything authentic.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Looking for a new ride without the big city pressure? Come to Western Dodge in Moose Jaw, where you'll find an unbeatable lineup of Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Dodge Muscle, and Chrysler family rides. With knowledgeable staff, great prices, and that friendly Moose Jaw touch, you'll drive away with confidence. Western Dodge, big selection, small town service. Visit us today or browse online at
Coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, great the game today. PM Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Across America, Country Thunder Music Festivals bring you the biggest superstars. See unforgettable performances by Zach Top, Lainey Wilson, Brooks and Dunn, Keith Urban, Riley Green, the Red Clay Strays, Kane Brown, Gavin Adcock, and so many more. Join the party under the desert sky in Arizona, on the sandy shores of the Gulf in Florida, or in gorgeous Wisconsin Lake Country. It's the music you love, live and loud. Tickets, hotel, and camping info available at countrythunder.com.
21-time nominated Grammy Award winner Dwight Yoakam. Live in concert. June 24th, 7 p.m., Temple Garden Center. Dwight Yoakam. On sale now at sasktix.ca. Dwight Yoakam Live.
All right, welcome back, everybody, and we're good. It's the RP show, no Game Plus TV today, but we are live on YouTube. I appreciate your patience, and it's funny. So you're actually in for a real treat here. I mean, I really love when my guys are with me, right? Scruffy and Kevin the Medium. It's awesome, but that's what makes days like this special, where I can really go back and forth with you. And so Corey has fixed the bit rate issue. I can see it already. It's coming through streaming just fine. I mean, I'm not a tech guy. He is. So he's got to figure it out. It's happening everywhere. And it's funny when I read this. Jeff, the Stamps fan, writes in and says, why did Buffalo play the Canadian anthem last night? You see this is going around everywhere. The microphones weren't working in Buffalo last night at the Sabres game. So for the national anthem singer, so the whole crowd sang "Oh Canada" for her. And Jeff, the Stamps fan, says, why did Buffalo play the Canadian anthem? It's funny because they always do. It's just become a thing now, at least in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And it's frankly hilarious. They were talking about it on the NHL channel this morning on NHL radio. Scott Laughlin says there's Americans upset that they're playing the Canadian national anthem in Buffalo in a game between Boston and Buffalo. It's like, number one, people need to find something else and better to get upset about. Number two, there's tech issues happening for everybody. I totally get it. Like, into this CFL stuff. And I want to talk far more on that. And we'll get to the tech issues thing in a second. But John in Edmonton writes in and says, shouldn't the commissioner hold a press conference about the new playoff format? And Jeff, the Stamps fan, frankly, is bang on. Rarely, Jeff. Rarely, you know that league and at least some team personnel are saying as much. More playoff games. That's when they draw the most. That's when they sell out. So at least they're admitting that. Frankly, the biggest issue that I have was them announcing it on draft day and stealing the thunder away from the players. Terrible. From 6 to 8 teams, I mean, I've had overnight to think about this and what I was going to say on the air, and a lot of people writing in on our Facebook page saying, you could do 6 hours of a show tomorrow instead of 2 because people want to make their thoughts known on this. And believe me, later on this hour and maybe even into hour 2, we can talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs, but everybody's talking about the Stanley Cup playoffs. There really isn't a huge venue right now, but everybody's talking about the Stanley Cup playoffs. There really isn't a huge venue right now for the CFL talk. So when I say I thought about what I could say, what I would say, CFL's not putting any money in my pocket, okay? Not putting any money in my jeans. And I was kind of surprised, frankly, that TSN's Dave Naylor tweeted that he's not a huge fan of this because the CFL is paying him largely, but at least he was honest about it. They're taking away, you all know this, but I'm going to say it anyways, they're taking away the specialness of the regular season that 8 of 9 teams make the playoffs. Come on, it's a joke. And however you want to say it, I saw one team president saying this is going to open up additional revenue streams or whatever the hell, however they're framing it. Just say it's about the money. It's all about the money. But just don't ever come back and say, we need to protect the integrity of the game. We need to protect the integrity of my time on this last night. I know our CFL first. I'm not CFL first. Okay? I'm hockey and NHL first. I'm a fan, but I'm not going to dig into this. But I'm going to say how I feel as a fan. And you've hurt the integrity of the league with this, all for money, which is totally fine. But I hope that they're taking into account what their hardcore fans are saying, because I am. And for those that are saying this league's going to be unwatchable by next season, I'm walking away. Don't think that those are idle threats, because I don't think that they are. You know? I'm going to sit back here and yeah, so we're spending this segment on this, and I don't know how much longer we will spend on this today, because Rich in Edmonton, I think, speaks for a lot of people. He says, I try and I try and I try to take the CFL seriously. And then they go and make an 8-team playoff and a 9-team league. In brackets, eye roll. Insert eye roll. Oh, and furthermore, I mean, God bless the people that were texting me, because I didn't mean God bless the people that were texting me, because I didn't get those texts until the next morning about who the riders were taking and what they need. I'm just, come on, man. It's been 7 years. That I'm not that guy anymore. Come on. So, I mean, furthermore, Ottawa took the offensive lineman out of Purdue, right, with a number 1 overall pick. And I will say this, I mean, I have a stick in my craw today about this CFL stuff, because with their announcement of the playoff format change and the scheduling formalization, why did you need to do it on the day of the draft? Why would you do it on the day of the draft? Because that's where my focus went. And now here we are today, where people should be dissecting the draft and talking about maybe who won the draft or what were the interesting picks. And hey, shout out Charlie Parks, who went to the Ottawa Red Blacks, who was on our show here a couple of weeks ago, but nobody's talking about it. And as you know, I still sit here and cannot quite figure out if no publicity is better than bad publicity. I'm not really sure. But, you know, Rich in Edmonton says, I try to take the CFL seriously. When they say that there's a grander plan, to me, I can only speak for me, because everybody's got different opinions on these things. But it's like, at what point do you stop giving them the benefit of the doubt? I'm talking about the Canadian Football League owners and governors, that they do have a grand plan, that it's going to get better. At what point do we go, no, you've shot yourself in the foot too many times? And quite frankly, I think I'm there. Are you? I'll still watch the games, but there's no urgency. What's this going to do with near the end of the regular season, those nail-biting regular season games for playoff positioning, when it doesn't matter now? I mean, what did I say here yesterday, or even Monday? I think the last 2 days. I said, just go with it. I mean, with the NHL botching the Anaheim goal the other night, Game 4 against Edmonton, that was a botch by the NHL. But you know what? Just go with it. NFL saying 13.2 million people watched on streaming for round 1 of the draft. How do we know? Just go with it. Just go with it. We're going to keep watching anyways, right? Ourselves. The NHL saying the ratings are the highest they've been in 14 years and on the way to being the highest ever. How do we know? Where's the proof? Just go with it. I will. I'm sitting here watching 8 hours of hockey a day and loving it, or at least on weekends, and as much as I can in the evenings. Just go with it. And at some point, do we, with the CFL, where are you on that? Where are you on that? because it's a dwindling fan base. We all know that. Oh, they say the revenue's up. Just go with it. Where the rubber meets the road is, are people going to continue to watch, especially in the regular season when the games don't mean as much? Like there's a young girl in Hamilton. I want to say her name is Laura Stewart. And she just, Jeff, the nail-biting games in the end for playoffs, fairly clear by Labor Day. The last couple of years, absolutely, you're right. But think about it this way. You're totally right. I remember 1999, my first season with the Rough Riders. We were 3-15, and we went right down to the last weekend of the regular season, a game at BC, whether we were going to get in or not. And that was under the 6-team format. So, but you know what, Jeff? You're going to watch it no matter what. So you're like me with the NHL, right? You're never going to say anything bad about the CFL. You're never going to be critical of the CFL, which God bless you for that. You've never been critical of the CFL. You don't want to see it expand. You don't want to see any change. But, you know, and you're okay with this because you're okay with anything they do. Jeremy in Winnipeg writes, and he says, I still can't believe Caleb Downs is a Cowboy. Believe it. Tony in Cochrane, Alberta writes in and says, Stuart Johnston took TSN down the toilet, and now he's taking the CFL with it. Who is this guy? And then, and by the way, that's the other thing. You know, I've talked to the CFL overlords over the years, Wally Buono being one. I feel like it's time we got to get Wally on this show. But he said of all the commissioners, the NFL commissioner has the most stroke. And we don't have time, and you probably don't have the interest today to get the explanation from me as to why. But that was from Wally. The NFL commissioner has the most stroke. And that was like about 10 to 15 years ago, I had that chat with Wally. I don't know. His point was that the CFL commissioner has no stroke. At that time, he was saying that it's the owners and the CFL that make all the decisions, and the governors of the publicly owned teams. And at that time, that was Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, Edmonton. That's a third of the league. They're the ones making the call, not the commissioner. So here, has it changed? Is this all Stuart Johnston? That's what the fans think. And let's be honest, since he's been in the office in just over a year, there's been some pretty damn radical changes, right? And his mandate is to make the money. And this is short-term thinking, but that's kind of what the CFL has been known for. Okay, that's my 15-minute monologue. We may continue. We may switch to hockey. We'll see. You got to come back to find out. We'll be right back. You're watching the RP Show.
Ultimate Fan Zone, taking our show on the road coast to coast. Shop online, ultimatefanzone.ca. Slick, user-friendly. We built this site for the die-hard sports fans. Jerseys, hats, team apparel, offering officially licensed fan gear from the best lines in sports. Nike, New Era, Adidas, Fanatics. Game day ready to your door. Now.
But how do you turn ambition? It starts with connection. Booking top-tier speakers and executing seamless events. That's the EMJ difference. We position your brand where it belongs through powerful advertising, strategic media, and promotion that drives results. At EMJ Marketing, we don't just promote your Rebel, we partner. Your growth, our mission.
Across America, Country Thunder Music Festivals bring you the biggest superstars. See unforgettable performances by Zach Top, Lainey Wilson, Brooks and Dunn, Keith Urban, Riley Green, the Red Clay Strays, Kane Brown, Gavin Adcock, and so many more. Join the party under the desert sky in Arizona, on the sandy shores of the Gulf in Florida, or in gorgeous Wisconsin Lake Country. It's the music you love, live and loud. Tickets, hotel, and camping info available at countrythunder.com.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina. This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the program as much as I am, just sitting here yapping with you, yakking it up on the old yak box. The Western Dodge text line is open. And by the way, thank you, Western Dodge, coming back on board this summer, providing official vehicle support for the RP show. Western Dodge in Moose Jaw. Drive with confidence. Shop Western Dodge financing selection and service you can count on. Just so you know, I'm not here for a fight or an argument. I'm giving you my thoughts, and that's it. I'm not going to have a back and forth. I'll address some of these issues, but it's interesting because the poll question for Country Thunder is obvious. Do you agree with the CFL playoff format change? There you go. Country Thunder, the biggest party of the summer, coming to Craven, Saskatchewan, July 9th to the 12th, featuring Lainey Wilson and Creed. Get your tickets now for just $20 down at countrythunder.com/SK. According to Wally Buono, than any other league. I think Gary Bettman's got quite a bit of stroke in the NHL. Eric in Vancouver writes in and says, they do, but every league is a little different. That I want to get into today. Roger Goodell, my point, has the biggest whip and the biggest chair. It's not Football Friday. I got a million things that I want to get into here. The CFL's commissioners told what to do by the owners. In the NFL, the owners are told what to do by the commissioner. Does that kind of make sense, Eric? I mean, I don't really want to get into league governance 101 here today. That's not what we do. That's not what I came here for. But to give you a large example, Jerry Jones was outvoted, outweighted, worn down by Roger Goodell to the degree that the Dallas Cowboys are going to play in Brazil this year. It's their first ever off-continent game in NFL history because Goodell said, you're doing it. CFL commissioners never had that kind of stroke to be able to do that to the most influential owner in the CFL, which forever was David Braley. So again, I don't want to get hung up on that. Can you just listen to me? I know these things. Okay? I don't want to debate. Jeremy in Winnipeg writes in and says, I get Canadians want the CFL to be their own, but it would be kind of cool if the CFL was the farm teams for the NFL, but that's just me. Jeremy, that's why you're watching this show, because you and I think the same. But can you please put down that sword? Because I put it down 30 years ago. I used to do the before I was the voice of the Riders, I used to do the pre and post game shows at Casino Regina, and I had this discussion with the DB that we had by the name of Dale Joseph. I loved him. I think he was in the NFL for a little while. He's from Houston. Cool as hell. Dale Joseph. I said that exact same thing. We should be a farm team for the NFL, and he got mad. And he said if we were a farm team for the NFL, we would look second rate. We would be considered a second-rate league to the NFL. What do you think you are? So, Brent in Saskatoon writes in and says, it's starting to look like a Bush League. Again, I don't know. We're spending some time on this today, but then we will move on. Utah Darren writes in and says, why would you take the attention away from the draft? Make this announcement a day or two after the draft. You are taking away from the draftees enjoying a moment of accomplishment. Like, I would like to have that explained. It would have to be probably done privately. Click. Ken in, he says, one of the very first interviews Stuart Johnston did after the rule change. I respect that. I respect it too. And I don't know where we're at with the CFL. Stuart's been on this show a couple of times. And I think I told you leading up to the CFL Combine, I asked the CFL to put a player on from the Combine, and they never got back to me at all. So I'm like, I don't know if they're mad at me. He says, with every announcement, this commissioner is driving me further. Most of my years, I've defended the CFL. No longer. Death. And it's funny. This is the only thing. Like, I'm actually perversely enjoying the discussion here today. Jeremy in Winnipeg writes in and says, second rate. The CFL would make so much money if they were farm teams of the NFL. People would watch the CFL more, want to see the prospects. Why? Oh, well, put down the sword. That's why you don't hear me say it anymore. Jeremy, you've been watching this show for years. I had that exact same thought, but I gave up on it because they don't want that. I mean, if you could somehow convince them that they would make a lot of money by doing it, you might have a chance, but they don't even want to hear it. Darren in Melfort writes in, he says, too bad it's a Wednesday. I wanted to hear a scruffy CFL rant. Well, you wouldn't have got one because he's in agreement with this for some weird reason. Which is, by the way, that's another thing. I don't sit here and rag or complain or argue with the CFL owners anymore. It is their league. You can do with it whatever. It's your league. You can do whatever you want. That's the thing that's the argument that I have, frankly, with a lot of big money friends of mine that own businesses. They don't own sports teams, but when they talk about an owner who, like the owner of the Pats or the owner of the Cowboys or the owner of a lot of my favorite teams that never win, but they got big money. They bought the team. They have the money. They can do what they want. So not make the playoffs and have an empty building that sure. Okay. Larry in Medicine Hat writes in, congrats to the Tigers, by the way, for their overtime victory in Game 3, the East Final last night over the Raiders. 2-1 series lead. Larry in Medicine Hat says, if the CFL playoff changes is a money grab, they may lose money if regular season games become essentially meaningless. And that, by the way, is the other thing. I mean, it's been on a slow opener. Woo! Signed Vintage Sasko. What was so eye-opening? Which, by the way, Jim lost. Oh, man, he's sharper than the edge of town. What he did say is that the CFL is not going anywhere anytime soon, which that's what I took away from that interview. So that's why I don't worry about it. I'll decide moving forward whether I want to keep watching. I had to make a decision if I wanted to keep watching junior hockey because there's no hitting or fighting anymore, and I kept watching. We'll be right back after this.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Ultimate Fan Zone, taking our show on the road coast to coast. Shop online, ultimatefanzone.ca. Slick, user-friendly. We built this site for the die-hard sports fans. Jerseys, hats, team apparel, offering officially licensed fan gear from the best lines in sports. Nike, New Era, Adidas, Fanatics. Game day ready to your door. Now, just a click away, ultimatefanzone.ca, or check us out on Facebook and Instagram. UFZ Downtown Moose Jaw, home of everything authentic.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
You have a vision, a big idea. But how do you turn ambition into absolute impact? It starts with connection. Booking top-tier speakers and executing seamless events. That's the EMJ difference. We position your brand where it belongs, Guy, through powerful advertising, strategic media, and promotion that drives results. At EMJ Marketing, we don't just promote, we partner. Your growth, our mission.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
All right, welcome back, everybody. And I love how these commercial breaks, especially today, are nothing more than like a 3-minute and 30-second pause and then right back into the discussion. But I will tell you, I wanted to talk more hockey, but just so you know, that's going to be hour 2. And the hockey reports for the Mad Greek. For legendary ribs, delicious pizza, and late-night bites, it's the Mad Greek Eatery, open until 11 p.m. By the way, I love that. Well, I don't love that we're not on Game Plus today because of programming, whatever you want to call it, double parking. But those regular Game Plus viewers have found us here on YouTube, like Bill in Brantford, Ontario. Thank you, Bill, for finding us. Bill says, where the hell is it? They were asking why do they play the Canadian national anthem in Buffalo? Because last night the girls' mic didn't work, the national anthem singer, and Bill said, why during the Canadian anthem? So they all sang the Canadian national anthem, and Bill writes in and says half the rink's Canadians. And there was a fantastic discussion this morning on NHL radio. I mean, by Scott Loughlin and Gord Stellick, who were both Southern Ontario guys, and they said about the camaraderie was the term Scott used, and Scott's been on this show many times, of Western New York people and Southern Ontario people. And I was fascinated to hear it because I've never lived in either region and haven't spent a lot of time there. And isn't it great that in some places Canadians and Americans can get along? Isn't that awesome? And specifically in Buffalo that they do it, because I would kind of like to all get along, which reminds me, I mean, I get annoyed on these CFL things, but it is what it is. Vancouver Eric writes in, he says, RP, we still like your thoughts on the league. Thanks for giving us a platform. And so Jeremy in Winnipeg wrote in and he said it would be great if the CFL became a farm league for the NFL. We were debating that earlier. I don't know why Jeff the Stamps fan watches this show every day, because we don't think similarly at all. And because Jeff writes in and says, I draw the line at farm league. Do you need a better example than Alex Singleton. He comes to the Canadian Football League, cuts his teeth, wins Top Canadian, makes sub $100,000 Canadian, and then signs in the NFL. It is a farm league. It is a farm league. What do you think it is if you don't think it's a farm league? I don't want to argue, but open your bloody eyes. Scott in Vancouver says it can be its own distinct league with the rules, etc. But face it, many guys are trying to make the jump to the NFL as it is. Jeremy in Winnipeg says hockey players want to make the NHL, not the AHL. Football players want to make the NFL, not the CFL. I mean, come on. It's this big act that it's not a farm league. Utah Darren writes in, I mean, a lot of people perversely enjoying this discussion, just like I said I was earlier. He says the CFL/XFL talks brought me to this show. According to sources, merger was never brought up. Pretty sure that's why the XFL people went to the table. Would have been incredibly beneficial to both. Yeah, now we're getting into cuckoo land. We're getting into cuckoo land, and I don't like spending time in cuckoo land at all. There's a lot of people that like to live in fantasy, and I don't know why. Maybe because reality hurts too much. I don't know. But that's not where I want to live. It's funny because the other day I was watching Stanley Cup Playoffs with some friends here in Florida. The topic, well, they actually put on the UFL game. Stunned. And they're like, whatever happened to the league with The Rock? I'm like, this is the league with The Rock. I think he still owns one team, but it was all just a gigantic, ball of crap. It was all bunk. Jeff the Stamps fan says, yes, thank you, Rod. For what? What else did I? Well, my God. All these things I'll just push over into hour 2. Forget about the sports update. We'll do for Ultimate Fan Zone. We'll do that next hour because I got into last night's Stanley Cup playoff games and have spent the last 45 minutes on the Canadian Football League in the amended playoff format. Haven't done picks yet, which is, see, that's something that I wanted to talk about. I'll have to do it next hour. I know how big gambling is in Vegas, and we will be going to television hour 2. Our picks are brought to you by Pump Jack's Steakhouse and Saloon, Pump Jack's Cathedral, Pump Jack's Weyburn. Come early, stay late at the place where friends meet. Let me just get into what I was saying earlier. My NHL picks have been highly successful. One of our viewers brought that up. I mean, 60% plus pays. We've talked about that. Actually, 56% plus pays, but it's just easier to say 60%. There are meetings going on at one of our TV partners today about this show and more betting and this and that. And we're just sitting there going, will we, won't we? And I'm kind of going, I'm open for business. I'm open for anything. I think there's a reason why I'm sitting here today, not working for a team and not working for a league, although that could change. But I don't gamble because I'm in addiction recovery, which I never did drugs either, and I wasn't addicted to gambling. I just don't screw it. 10 people can gamble and have no problem at all. 9 out of 10 people can drink and have no problem at all. 1 out of 10 are like me. Once they start, they can't stop. So we just don't start. But it's easy for me at my age. It's not easy for the young people. And I'll say young men because have you seen a young female athlete get in trouble yet with gambling? I haven't. All kinds of young men are, though. And fortunately, they're the ones that listen to me, and that's where I come in. But this Brendan Sorsby, the Texas Tech quarterback, has left the team to go into a rehab center for gambling addiction. And there's a whole long column in USA Today about that from Nancy Armour, who, again, I don't, I'm kind of like that hater. I don't hate her, but I read her stuff and then get pissed off. I'm that guy. She was the one trying to drag Tom Brady through the mud at his last Super Bowl because he was friends with Donald Trump. And I'm like, why are you doing this? And then today she's going off about how America failed Brendan Sorsby because what do you know about it? You don't know anything about it. So sometimes I can be that guy. I don't like when that guy comes out. But he did this morning. 902-518-3033. Paul writes in, thank you, Paul from Humboldt. North Dakotans, I know, cheer for the Riders. Camaraderie beats politics. You know what's funny about that? Why is he bringing that up now? I'm sure a lot of you were watching earlier when I said I really enjoyed the discussion this morning between Scott Laughlin and Gord Stellick about the people of Western New York and the people of Southern Ontario getting along. Because I like to get along. I don't like to fight. It was very bothersome to me a little over a year ago when they had the government change here in Florida, or in America, but here in Florida there was fights in the 55-plus communities at the tennis court over politics. I'm like, guys, you were getting along last week, and now you're fighting? The Canadians and Americans. It was so unsettling to me. Rich in Edmonton says, you be you, Rod. As my counselor says, who I just talked to this morning, not about that. But I said, I don't like being different. I don't like it. I've never liked it. And he goes, wow, that's why you have a show. Okay. Oh, I asked Jeff, a Stamps fan, what he's thanking me for, and he says, for giving CFL fans a platform to talk. Okay. My pleasure. Just to finish this up, the good news is hour 2 will have nothing to do with this because there's so much that I haven't got to. Point 4, NBA playoffs last night. Sixers, Knicks, Spurs won. You don't care about that, studies show. I do. Raptors playing at Cleveland tonight. That series is 2-2. Point 5, how about this? Kazuma Okamoto drove in 2 runs, and Blue Jays starter Trey Savage impressed in his season debut as the Toronto Blue Jays defeated the Boston Red Sox 3-0 Tuesday night. Vladdy had 2 hits and a run scored as Toronto ended Boston's 3-game win streak. I'll tell you that, because I can say it right now. Oh, no, I can't. We're on the radio in the U.S. South. I don't want to swear. Steve Simmons, a spit disturber. How about that? Will be with us from the Toronto Sun next hour. Brought to you by Prairie Panels. Are you building a shop, barn, rink, or commercial space? Prairie Panels provides high-quality insulated wall and roof panels designed for durability and energy efficiency. Visit prairiepanels.ca or call 306-985-0050. He'll have some thoughts on the CFL because he's an old CFL guy. That's where we got to be friends, but now I'm bumping into him in all these press boxes down here in Florida, in Miami, Sunrise, Tampa, because he covers the Leafs from South Florida. I knew there's a reason we got along. That's all coming up after the break. Stick around, everybody. Thank you for hanging in today. We'll be right back. You're watching the RP Show.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
You have a vision, a big idea. But how do you turn ambition into absolute impact? It starts with connection. Booking top-tier speakers and executing seamless events. That's the EMJ difference. We position your brand where it belongs, Guy, through powerful advertising, strategic media, and promotion that drives results. At EMJ Marketing, we don't just promote, we partner. Your growth, our mission.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
You have a vision, a big idea. But how do you turn ambition into absolute impact? It starts with connection. Booking top-tier speakers and executing seamless events. That's the EMJ difference. We position your brand where it belongs, Guy, through powerful advertising, strategic media, and promotion that drives results. At EMJ Marketing, we don't just promote, we partner. Your growth, our mission.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
How about that?
It's a very, very special day on the RP show. Why? Because it's the next one, and we're alive. That's the main thing. We're not splitting atoms here or curing cancer. That's for damn sure. We're talking sports. Welcoming the Nevada viewers on Silver State Sports. We're not on Game Plus television across Canada today because of a programming commitment of theirs, but that's okay. You've found us here on YouTube and also WQVZ radio, and I'm dying to get into these topics, and a lot of the hour one topic is going to carry over into hour two because it was a big one, and just hang to the new viewers you'll see in a second. But I just want to tell you that our guest today for Prairie Panels is Steve Simmons from the Toronto Sun. And just forgive me on this one. I try to obviously keep the show entertaining every day. But I'll say this about Steve Simmons, and I don't think he's logged in yet, so this isn't me kissing his ass. It's the truth. He is one of the last remaining guys that you can't wait to see what he has to say. And is there anybody else out there that you can think of? There used to be, every market had 1, 2, or 3 of these guys like Steve Simmons. And now most have none. Toronto's got Steve Simmons. And he also used to host the Reporters, right, with Dave Hodge on TSN on Sunday mornings. We couldn't wait to turn on the television to see what Steve Simmons had to say, not to mention all the other guys that were on that great show. And ESPN had theirs in the States as well. He's still doing his thing. Steve Simmons joining us from the Toronto Sun. He'll have thoughts on the Stanley Cup playoffs. I know he's going to have thoughts on what has been the biggest topic of the day in our world. It's the Canadian Football League changing their playoffs. And I know a lot of the Americans are like, huh? What? But Las Vegas, of course, was a CFL city. I've spent a lot of time in that town. It's got a huge CFL footprint there. And you wonder, what's the big deal? Tony from Cochrane sums it up all very well. I'll just tell you that the poll question today for Country Thunder is Country Thunder, Saskatchewan, rocking Craven, July 9th to the 12th with Lainey Wilson and Creed. Are you in favor of the playoff format change? That's the poll question. And I voted no. And Tony from Cochrane, Alberta writes in and he says, I am really surprised at the poll results moving towards 50-50 for a 9-team league where 8 make the playoffs. Ridiculous, in my opinion. Thank you, Tony. A lot of us feel the same way. Frankly, I have a far, far bigger problem with them announcing this on the day of the draft. It's all these young men have been working so hard their whole careers for that night to get drafted, and you completely rip the rug out from under them and announce a change to the playoff format. Who is making these decisions? Anyway, I see a lot of the viewers are just, people are writing in and go, oh, I just tuned in. Yeah, I spent the whole first hour on it, so rewind. Because I was eyeballs deep in the Stanley Cup playoffs on Tuesday night, and I will be again Wednesday night. That's tonight. Oh, my God. Yeah, because I'm tired of the toxicity and the negativity of what went on in the CFL yesterday and continues to go on today. I want to talk about hockey because that's what I love. That, quite frankly, is who I am. I know that's breaking news to a lot of the people that are tuned in, but I don't care. Now you know. Do you want me to go to tonight's games now? Or I'll do a quick recap of last night's games. I was disappointed in the Boston-Buffalo game. No offense to Zach Benson and the Buffalo Sabres, who was tuned into the show here yesterday. He always has a great game. Little number 6, Zach Benson for the Buffalo Sabres. But Boston won again. David Pasternak in overtime. And I'm just telling you, it's a disservice to not be talking about these Stanley Cup playoffs far more than we are, or what anybody is, because frankly, here in America, it's all NBA playoffs right now. All NBA playoffs. And you're just not going to get that here. Not today. So Boston beat Buffalo 3-2 in overtime. Big talk there about the anthem singer's mic conking out before the game. She was singing the Canadian national anthem. What a commentary on society right now. That this is like the biggest thing coming out of that game was, why were they singing the Canadian national anthem in Buffalo when the teams were from Boston and Buffalo? And it's sort of a thing where if you know, you know. I've never lived there, but I know the portion of that crowd is hugely Canadian. It's respect to Canada. And this is the third time I've mentioned it on the show today. NHL radio this morning, Scott and Gord, my good friends, were discussing the camaraderie between Western New Yorkers and Southern Ontarians. And it's heartwarming to me because I'm a guy that's trying to bring everybody together just in life. But there's a lot of people that like to divide people too. It's a battle every day between us. Sometimes I wonder who's winning and who's losing. People, and it's not just that area. We had Paul from Humboldt, Sask wrote in and talked about the North Dakotans and the Montanans who, are friends with the Canadian Prairie people. It's the exact same thing. And I would assume the BC people and the Washington State, Pacific Northwest people, it's the same thing. That's kind of nice. Back on point, Rod. I didn't watch any of the Minnesota-Dallas game at all other than the highlights. Jake Ottinger continues to give up some softies for Dallas in goal. Minnesota wins 4-2, as I mentioned, and which included a empty netter, and they go back to Minnie with the chance to close out the series in a 3-2 series lead. And then like a quick one, because everybody in the Edmonton area and all of Western Canada are talking the Oilers beating the Anaheim Ducks 4-1. I was 2 of 3 on picks last night. I had that one picked well. And I settled in to watch the game, and it was bing, 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 3-0 Oilers fast in the first period. And it's just like, what's with this team? I was an Oilers fan for a long time growing up as a kid till the day they traded Gretzky. So, I kind of get it. But they weren't as manic then in the 80s as they are now, or Jekyll and Hyde. My God. But the Ducks lead the series 3-2, heading back to the Duck Pond. And all these teams that had early series leads, all these young teams, the Sabres, the Ducks, the Canadiens, the Mammoth, got to be going, I would think, some are. No doubt about that. By the way, the Quick Six Show topics in the warm-up are brought to you daily by Uniglobe Carefree Travel Group, the preferred travel partner of the RP Show and the BC Lions. When it comes to sports trips, group travel, or your next great getaway, trust the pros who handle every detail so you can enjoy the journey. Contact Neil Chark with Uniglobe Carefree Travel. Point two, I'll spend a minute or two on this because there is no NFL going on, was huge, frankly, earth-shaking news in the Canadian Football League. They haven't changed the playoff format for 30 years with the institution of the crossover playoff berth, which was like the last time they did, but that was very necessary. On Tuesday, on the day of the draft, the commissioner thought it would be a great idea to announce they're moving their playoff. It's a 9-team league. From 6 teams make the playoffs to 8. And at the very least, starting next season, not like 2027, not this year. So the poll question is, frankly, there were other announcements as well, but all that matters is this one. 8 of 9 teams make the playoffs. You're all watching this show because you're a sports fan, right? I would think that's why you're here. You understand. They've just completely taken pretty much all the importance out of the regular season with this announcement. But having said that, I guess the vote's 50-50. I haven't checked in a while. Like, are you in favor of the change for Country Thunder, Saskatchewan, that they bring you the poll every day? Are you in favor of the change? I guess almost 50% are saying they are. So whatever. I don't like it at all, but I like less that they would make this announcement on the day of the draft and take away the thunder from all those great players that had their names called that night. What are you doing and why? You couldn't wait until next week? Okay. Picks. You want to do picks now? We could do that. Steve Simmons coming out from the Toronto Sun, by the way, and I'll say it again. I just can never wait to hear what he has to say about everything. He'll have some thoughts on that CFL playoff format. He'll have some thoughts on the Leafs GM search and these Stanley Cup playoffs so far. So there are 3 games tonight, and I love the fact that as a guy that hosts a Florida hockey podcast called Cats and Bolts, the Bolts are in the greatest series so far. And Al LeMay said it yesterday when he was on with us, Washington Capitals TV analyst. The Montreal-Tampa series reminds him of the 80s because it is friggin' nasty. 2-2 is the series. Game 5 is tonight. Benchmark International Arena in Tampa Bay, which I've been here long enough now, 6 years, to know nobody's calling it that in Tampa. It's still Amalie. That's it. It was Amalie Arena for years, and that's still what they call it, which I think was an oil company, but I'm not sure. Who will win tonight? Tampa will win tonight. The gambling road. I want to ask, can you remind me to ask Steve Simmons about the gambling thing too? What gambling thing? I'll get to that. Pittsburgh at Philly. Pittsburgh's going to win, man. They got Mo on their side. And I don't mean Mo Mantha. I don't mean Mo Dono. Momentum. Pittsburgh wins this thing tonight and forces a Game 7 back at PPG Arena. Todd, Vegas, as riddled with anxiety as all the Golden Knights fans are, and for very good reason. Utah at one time had the series lead here, 2-1. It's now 2-2 going back to the Fortress tonight. We've been doing picks all year, and Vegas has been a box of chocolates all year. You never know what you're going to get when you pop the top on that thing with the Vegas Golden Knights. But I think tonight they'll win. But that's probably another series that's going 7. Again, I'll quote Alan May as he said yesterday, more hockey, more hockey, more hockey. We're all, longer the series, the better. Those are the picks for Pump Jack's Steakhouse and Saloon, Pump Jack's Cathedral, and Pump Jack's Weyburn. Come early, stay late at the place where friends meet. Yeah, for those that observe, oh boy, we could all use it, right? Carlos in Indiana. 1:11 Eastern for our live viewers audience right now, 11:11 Mountain. If you play the game, if you celebrate, just imagine the ideal you and the person you want to be and the positive, perfect outcome, and then live in that. Live there. See how it works. Worked for me. It really has. It's awesome. 902-518-3033. That's the text line for Western Dodge. I want to say again a big thank you to Devin Ripley and the crew at Western Dodge coming on board again. Official travel partner, or what should I say? Official vehicle supplier of the RP show, Western Dodge. Yeah, I know a lot of the CFL fans come here to talk. David, number 2 in Winnipeg, writes in. He says, "Good morning, Rod. I was a big CFL fan, but the latest announcement regarding the playoffs has... Let's just hand out participation medals." I did see a quote from the commissioner where he basically said, people will get over that. Maybe. I don't know. There are people that are saying this part of this grand plan. First, they announced the rule changes, then the field changes, and now the playoff format change, and then they're going to announce expansion. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like, to me, they're out of their 9 lives with me. For credibility, integrity of the league, they're out of it. But that's just me. I'm not saying everybody needs to feel that way. Troy in Toronto watching. He says, "I'm late to the party today, but the CFL new playoff format is a head-scratcher. Other than money, what could be the logic behind this decision? Let's make the regular season more meaningless?" You could have stopped at other than money because it's the only reason. And at the very least, they're admitting it. They've admitted it. Some of the league tall foreheads have. These guys are talking about awards. Paul in Humboldt writes in and says, if the NHL can name the goal-scoring trophy for Rocket Richard, then the best defensive forward should be called the Dave Keon Trophy. He was the best two-way forward that I have seen. Isn't that the Selke, the Frank J. Selke? It's already named after somebody for the top defensive forward. They have that. And Alexander Barkov's won it the last 2 years. But speaking of the awards, I had a young NHL reporter write me. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. He DM'd me, and I give him credit for outing himself. He was like, "Rod, I want to vote for Macklin Celebrini as the MVP, but I'm afraid that my vote will be made public and I'll be laughed at." Basically is what he said. What should I do? I said, you vote for whoever you think is worthy of the MVP award or the top 3 or however they do it. I don't vote on it. You vote for who you think it is. Who cares what anybody thinks? And yesterday it came out the Ted Lindsay Award finalists, which if you talk to those in the know in the NHL, that's the coveted award. It's what the players vote on. For MVP, Macklin Celebrini, Nikita Kucherov, Connor McDavid. And somebody wrote in here and said that was just a young reporter that was looking up to you, Rod. If you don't look down on him for asking, I don't. But I don't feel... I've never been afraid to vote for who I want, say what I want.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world, thanks to Game Plus TV. Yes, the world, thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world, thanks to Game Plus TV. World about your business. Yes, the world, thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
You have a vision, a big idea, but how do you turn ambition into absolute impact? It starts with connection. Booking top-tier speakers and executing seamless events, that's the EMJ difference. We position your brand where it belongs, Guy, through powerful advertising, strategic media, and promotion that drives results. At EMJ Marketing, we don't just promote, we partner. Your growth, our mission.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live. Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Serious question here. Am I being pranked? I would say, where's the camera? Whoop. Yeah. No Steve Simmons. So here's the deal. Of the Toronto Sun, if he could come on the air. Well, I used to read your column in the Calgary. He's like, yeah, I lived in Toronto then. They just carried my column. I'm like, I was 17 years old, literally right off the farm. No idea how the media worked. How could you live in Toronto and write a column in the Calgary paper? Oh, facts. Okay. This is great. This Leonard Ferguson writes in and says, my inspiration is to get where Rod is. Shouting out from the 306, Regina, Saskatchewan. I got to say this, Leonard Ferguson, you're watching on YouTube. Do you understand that I've lived in Florida for 6 years? Did that, you missed that? It's just funny to me. Like, oh my God. It's funny. So I'll tell you what, 5-6 years ago, it was a major fight with certain people. And a lot of you will remember this. I was doing the show outdoors here in Florida with palm trees in the background. And there were people involved with this show that said, you got to move it inside. It's pissing people off. Broadcasting from Florida, the beautiful sunshine and when it's minus 47 in January in Canada. I'm like, how's that okay. We're not with them anymore. I was out for a walk and I sent a photo to my sponsor, Bob, of my neighbor's place. Big splashy vehicles, big splashy vehicles, big huge palm trees. And he's like, wow, huge palm trees. And he's like, wow, some people would like that, I guess. I'm like, some people. What do you mean? Okay. Thank you, Colton San Diego, for writing this in. He says the Ravens have announced Diego Pavia has signed a 3-year deal. Thank you, by the way. That was the huge news on, well, not as much, more Tuesday, that the Vanderbilt quarterback was not drafted by anybody despite being a Heisman finalist, which shocked me a little bit to learn the last Heisman finalist, runner-up to College Football Player of the Year, that wasn't drafted was Jordan Lynch back in 2012. We all remember Jordan Lynch. He was a quarterback who was converted to a running back. To me, 2012 doesn't seem like that long ago. But anyways, the idea of Diego Pavia going to the CFL or the UFL is obviously out. But what happened coming out of the NFL weekend, it's amazing to me in a way, just following how it all goes down. The hype for the NFL draft was like nothing I've ever seen. And again, for Leonard and who hasn't been following along, 6 years I've been here. And by the way, coming to Florida in April, for many years before that, to cover pro football free agent camps with the team that I worked with. So I was around this NFL draft hype for a long time. And it was, it does say something. I don't know what it says. And then and Diego Pavia wasn't drafted either. That's where it started to come out that he should head to the CFL or the UFL, but he didn't have to. He's going to the Baltimore Ravens. So my point is, it's just an absolute tidal wave, the likes of which I've never seen leading up to the draft. Absorb it, and then now, nothing. And Florio and Chris Sims are talking about going to the movies and nobody being there, and they're like, how are these movie theaters staying open? There was nobody there. Maybe you should go more. Not that hard to figure out. Like I said, 902-518-3033. I would love more and more of your feedback here. I could sit and talk on my own forever. Or feedback here. I could sit and talk on my own forever. But I would rather include you guys. 902-518-3033. Jeff, the Stamps fan, I will say this with your last comment. The fact that you're the only one talking about it and you're asking if anybody cares gives you the answer. Nobody cares. Kirk in Toronto writes in, says, hey, Rod, could you please ask Mr. Simmons why his newspaper doesn't print the MLB scores and standings? Frustrating as a 40-year subscriber. I have to get MLB scores and standings from the other Toronto daily newspaper. What day is it? Because I'm ready for the weekend. It was actually, interestingly, this was complaining the Canadian national anthem at the Buffalo NHL game Tuesday night. Why are they singing the Canadian national anthem? Boston and Buffalo. Why do you care? Why do you care? Kirk, why do you think that the Toronto Sun isn't publishing MLB scores and standings? Because there's this thing called the internet. I don't know. There's this thing called the internet and apps. Wow. Come on, guys. Vancouver Eric writes in and says, I don't think the Heisman Trophy means as much in 2026. No, there's more to it than that. There's more to it than that. It meant a lot that Fernando Mendoza won it. I mean, come on. The biggest reason that Diego, 10 minutes, we've had about 6 minutes cut off. 10 minutes, we've had about 6 minutes cut off. But we got about 10 minutes here, Steve. So I guess because, listen, we're on the air in Nevada, Game Plus TV. Are you following the CFL playoff format as a longtime CFL guy where we first met? Do you have thoughts on them going from 6 to 8 teams in the playoffs, or is it on your radar at all?
It's barely on my radar, but as a lifer, I don't, for the life of me, understand it. You can't have a league with 9 teams and put 8 of them in the playoffs. I don't understand the logic of it. I don't understand, how it makes the league better. it's one of those things that just makes me shake my head. What are they, other than trying to have more meaningful games near the end of the year? I really don't understand what this is accomplishing.
Fine. We've been discussing it for the last hour and 20, and I'm ready to put it to bed. I'm exactly with you. The poll question is, do you agree with the playoff format change? It's like 50-50, which actually shocks the hell out of me. But beyond that, Steve, we can put that to bed. Stanley Cup playoffs, Leafs aren't in them. What's grabbed you here as we've hit the midpoint of round one?
Montreal, Tampa. It's the best series I've seen so far. Either team can win. They're both great hockey clubs. They both have all kinds of upper echelon talent. This is fun to watch. The speed of these games, speed of almost every game I've watched has been something, but the speed of those games seem a little bit, it's a higher speed and a higher skill at the same time. And that's one of the things I'm most impressed by. I can honestly see either of those teams winning the Stanley Cup. And it's not often, although we're watching, Dallas and Minnesota, and they're playing as hard as those two teams are playing, and Minnesota's now leading. And so you're going to have a reside. And the gold medal games in both circumstances went to overtime, and they were fantastic. And the semifinal games in the men's side went to overtime, and they were fantastic. And I think people who don't watch hockey got to look at hockey. And maybe now, as the first round of the NBA playoffs are, for lack of a better word, uninteresting, we're seeing right now some really great series happening in the NHL, and the two networks that are doing allure that it did for anybody who watched Hockey Night in Canada growing up. That Saturday night thing doesn't pull us in the way it used on television. But then you get to TNT, for example. They do a pregame show, they do the game, they do a postgame show, and they've turned Paul Bissonnette into maybe the voice of commentary on hockey in the United States, which is, he's sort of become their Don Cherry, if there is such a thing. He's sort of become their Don Cherry, if there is such a thing, and done that well. And I think their quality from play-by-play to color to the interviewers during the game to the between periods. I don't particularly care for ESPN between periods, and I don't particularly care for all of their play-by-play guys. But if Ray Ferraro is doing the game, for example, I want to hear it, because I'll learn more from Ray Ferraro than I will from anyone else. And I love listening to Kenny Albert, and I love listening to the panel with Bissonnette and Anson Carter, and if it's Henrik Lundqvist or Gretzky or whoever it happens to be, it entertains me. And what sports is supposed to be entertainment. Sports is supposed to be entertainment. And if it doesn't entertain me, then I'm going to change channels, or I'm going to look at something else. And I find when I watch TNT hockey in particular, and a genius on the other side of you sitting on the panel. And I had Dave Hodge on one side and Michael Farber on the other. And they are two of the finest, smartest, most professional people you could ever be around. I can be emotional. I can be outrageous sometimes. But just being with them, and I had to work to their standards. And and Bruce Arthur on the panel as well. It was a great group of, and a lot of panelists over the top. I was the only one who lasted all 15 years. Hodge was the host, and I was the one guy who was there from beginning to end. And it was such a proud thing for me. And my friend Dave Naylor, who was occasionally on the show from TSN, you know him well from the CFL, he always said, we live in fear of disappointing Dave, because we never wanted to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. And every once in a while you'd go to commercial and he'd give you that look, like you went on too long, or you said something you shouldn't have said, and you get that stare. He wouldn't say anything. He'd just give you a look, and it was, oh my. And you just sort of quietly took it and went on to the next part of the show. But what an honor it was and a privilege to work with people like Dave Hodge and Michael Farber.
Oh my, it was the worst day of our lives when it went off the air. We only got a couple minutes left, but what's the latest on the Leafs GM search that you've unearthed?
Well, it sure sounds like, I mean, Elliot Friedman has been the leader of sorts reporting on this. And we found out a little bit today as to sometimes you can be really sound as a reporter, and sometimes you can be really lucky. Elliot took his son out for dinner before the playoffs started because he knew he was going to be working every day. In the playoffs, he wanted to have like a dad-son night out. And he goes to a steak place in downtown Toronto, and who does he see at the restaurant? Keith Pelly, who's the CEO of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, and Matt Sundin, the longtime captain of the Flames, having dinner together. Thus begun the reporting on Matt Sundin, who it appears as though will be vice president of hockey, whatever the title they're going to give him. He's going to be in charge, and it looks like John Chayka, the former GM of the Arizona Coyotes, will be the general manager. And it seems like an odd couple of sorts to be running, the richest franchise in professional hockey. But they want to repair the Leafs' image, and Sundin's name will give them some of that. But to bring a guy in that's been out of the game for 18 years or whatever it's been, and a general manager who is somewhat unaccomplished, it seems like a bit of a reach to me. But
and we're out of time. I apologize, Steve. I apologize with that. But we got to go to break. We'll be right back in Silver State Sports.
You have a vision, a big idea. But how do you turn ambition into absolute impact? It starts with connection. Booking top-tier speakers and executing seamless events. That's the EMJ difference. We position your brand where it belongs, Guy, through powerful advertising, strategic media, and promotion that drives results. At EMJ Marketing, we don't just promote, we partner. Your growth, our mission.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Appreciate your patience today. For the live streaming audience, the comments are certainly open. 902-518-3033. Thank you for y'all. That's brought to you by Western Dodge. Here's your sports update on this Wednesday. From MLB, the Philadelphia Phillies fired manager Rob Thompson after a 9-19 start, tied with the Mets for the worst in baseball. Bench coach Don Mattingly will take over as interim manager alongside his son Preston, who was the team's GM. Former Red Sox skipper Alex Cora was reportedly offered the position, but declined. As you know, he became available over the weekend. Why am I chuckling? That's where Don Mattingly is now. He got all the way to the World Series last year with the Blue Jays, which was shocking to me that he'd never been to a World Series before, Don Mattingly. And then now he takes over the worst team in baseball. Working for his kid. Has this ever happened in Major League Baseball? I feel like it's never happened. From the NFL, we didn't spend this is like the only NFL news this week. Aaron Rodgers still hasn't decided whether he's playing in the NFL this fall, but if he does, it'll likely be with Pittsburgh after the Steelers placed the right of first refusal tender on him, a rare tag that allows them to match any offer he receives this offseason. From the NBA, a couple of items. Damon Jones became the first defendant to plead guilty after the FBI's gambling probe that led to more than 30 arrests. The former NBA player and assistant coach admitted to selling insider information to sports bettors and participating in a poker scheme backed by the mafia. A far more positive story. Celtics president Brad Stevens has been named the NBA's Executive of the Year after Boston earned the number 2 seed despite missing Jason Tatum for most of the year. Stevens also won the award in 2004, making him the 12th executive with multiple wins. The sports update is for the Ultimate Fan Zone. From jerseys to trading cards, Ultimate Fan Zone is your fan cave headquarters. Visit them in Moose Jaw or click over to ultimatefanzone.ca. So, again, now with the interview guest time passed, I can get into my stories a little more. And we're going to have to speed it up here because we have a break coming up, although we've already made our picks. But just with the gambling issue, I think it's not something that those of us talk about in sports. We do. That's not entirely right. We sit around, we don't talk about point spreads, that kind of thing. The one thing that I hear the most when we have these discussions in the press boxes or the media rooms is they're going to have to get a handle on this. And yet they never really do. As I said, one of the TV networks that carries our show, they're having talks today about betting components with this show. And I've been asked, how do I feel about it? And I'm like, wow, I don't work for anybody. I don't answer to anybody. Well, I'm willing to do it if they want to do a betting segment. But I'll tell you what, I can't be influenced. You can tell them that. And for you CFL fans, I'll tell you, it was the night before the last game I ever called, 2018 Western semifinal. For any of you that remember or celebrate, and we didn't know, we literally did not know who the starting quarterback was going to be for our football team. And I had a betting guy call me the night before and say, who's starting? I'm like, I can't tell you that. He's like, come on. I thought we were friends. I said, so did I. I can't believe you would ask. And that's going on now like almost 10 years ago. And I didn't tell him. And to be honest, I didn't know because I don't want to know. That's why I said, wait, what was it, hour 1, hour 2? I don't know. But I said, there's a reason that I'm not working for a team or a league at the moment. Other opportunities are presenting themselves, but it's like, I'll top betting. Go ahead. But like Paul Bissonnette said on the weekend, there's no busy bets on NHL on TNT broadcasts anymore because he was wrong all the time. He didn't want that responsibility. I don't want that responsibility. I'll give you my picks. And if you want to take him to the betting window, go ahead. But don't come back at me if and when they're wrong. And that's been my stance for like 30 years. But they still find that there could be a way around that because we're still sitting here talking sports every day. We'll see. It's just something that everybody's like, and for good reason. People are getting fired for this. People are going to jail for this and losing their careers. We'll be right back with Overtime right after this.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Pedersen Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Pedersen Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional.
Worry about how much someone drinks. Worry about how much someone drinks.
Most of the time, do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would?
Most of the time, do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic. Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Looking for a new ride without the big city pressure? Come to Western Dodge in Moose Jaw, where you'll find an unbeatable lineup of Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Dodge Muscle, and Chrysler family rides. With knowledgeable staff, great prices, and that friendly Moose Jaw touch, you'll drive away with confidence. Western Dodge. Big selection, small town service. Visit us today or browse online at westerndodge.ca.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Overtime Segment, brought to you by our friends at Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Appreciate you all. The Rod Squad, obviously. And Noni's tuned in from Calgary, or at least she's from Calgary. I don't know where she is today. She writes in on the Western Dodge text line, 902-518-3033. She says, "Hi, Rod. Another great, entertaining, and informative show today. Just heard George Springer is off the IL for the Blue Jays, so hopefully they can win today and the series." Thank you, Noni, for that. It's interesting because here's you want a little peek into my world right now? Here's what it is. 90% of my focus is on the Stanley Cup playoffs. And that's why my picks have been so successful. I was saying to Scruffy, I think I said it on this show, if I wanted to sit and watch sports 20 hours out of the day, I could be a professional betting expert too. I just don't want to. Become playoff time of the year, I'm good with it. The other 10% is spent on everything else. For instance, I know the Blue Jays have the Red Sox in a matinee today. I know the Marlins are at the Dodgers in a matinee today. And I know the A's, the Las Vegas A's, are home to Kansas City in a night game. I'm following it that much. What the schedule is, who's in first in various divisions. But I will say this, as far as the panic goes for Jays fans, it's April. It's April. That shouldn't stop you from enjoying it, of course. But please don't panic. I mean, we will always go back and remember June of 2025 when the Blue Jays were in last place. And miraculously, leading up to the All-Star game, they ended up in first, and they really never relinquished it the rest of the way. We just got to have some faith in what they're doing there. But I know, it's funny because Kevin the Medium, who co-hosts this show Thursdays and Fridays with me, he's still hanging in, watching all those Blue Jays games. They hooked him last year on the playoff run, and he's still hooked. But like I say, it's too much for me. It's not all where my attention is. Couple things from the NHL. I mentioned the Ted Lindsay Award finalists. And were you really paying attention to what Steve Simmons said earlier, why he is enjoying these? Because he lives down here in Florida near me, enjoying these NHL broadcasts in the States. Because they're just hockey guys. And to be honest, like for what you're watching up there in Canada, because I don't get it. Like I don't receive it. It's not available to me. But if you want to, like last night I tuned in the NBA for a little bit, and the highlight of it all was the panel. Shaq, Chuck, Kenny, Ernie. They're entertaining. Everybody says TNT does it the best. My point is, do you want to hear from the hockey people and the football people? Because I do. Not just throwing somebody on the air. That's what they're doing in a lot of cases in the States on some networks, and certainly just throwing them on the air. Doesn't matter where they came from or what they went to school or what they know. It doesn't matter. But I want to hear from the people that actually know something, and clearly Steve Simmons does too. For instance, the Ted Lindsay Award finalists being named, Macklin Celebrini, Nikita Kucherov, and Connor McDavid. The hockey people have long said, do you know this? I would assume that you do, but maybe you don't. That's the award that you want to win. Nobody talks about it, really. Everybody talks about the heart, the Jack Adams, all the big ones, the Selke. This is the one that you want to win because the players vote on it. And Macklin Celebrini, the rookie or a sophomore for San Jose, is up there with Kucherov and McDavid. What does that say? And as a Bedard guy, I mean, I don't like hearing that, but I can't argue with what Celebrini did. What do you have, 115 points? He matched Joe Thornton for the best Sharks season in history at 19. So again, that's what the hockey people are saying. And furthermore, oh my God, because of various distractions, I didn't get to a lot of what I wanted to today, but again, keeping an eye on various things. The NBA has instituted a new system to clamp down on tanking. And I started reading it, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't totally care about the NBA. And this is very confusing. I need a calculus professor to figure this out. And I don't think what they're doing is a good idea anyways, but at least they got the right idea, trying to crack down on tanking. But the NHL, I ran a ChatGPT simulator. I said, can you do a simulated lottery winner based on the current NHL standings odds to win it? You know who won it? The Chicago Blackhawks. And I was going to spend more time on that today, but things came up. But that's a random simulation from ChatGPT. I could run another one, and it could be Vancouver. But I'm just saying that was the one. Are you prepared for Chicago to win the draft lottery on May 5th, which is, I think, next Tuesday? And Gavin McKenna go to the Chicago Blackhawks? Because there's a very good chance of that. Just randomly ran it, and I found that very interesting. And I'm also really enjoying the coverage of the passing of John Garrett. Terrible story, passing just before the game. He was set to broadcast the game, Utah-Vegas, and he passed away. But talk about a guy that doesn't have any enemies. John Garrett. I mean, forever in this business, that's hard to do. More than anything, we talked about this with Alan May yesterday, all the accolades, 40 years on the air. John Garrett spent far more time in the broadcast booth than he did in the crease as a goalie. No enemies. Not easy to do. And I love that John Garrett has been appropriately feted by the National Hockey League and all the teams for which he broadcasts. What a great guy. And great goalie masks, too. Okay, hoping to have sweet Annie O.D. tomorrow, everybody. And I know Kevin the Medium will be with us. Thanks for hanging in. It's been fun. Thanks to Steve Simmons, and we'll see you tomorrow here on the RP Show.
That